Friends, whether this happens next day or next month or next year, there is some stuff that's coming our way. There are going to be riots in the streets, and we're not kidding about that, because the wealth disparity between normal, ordinary Americans and what the top 1% and the top 0.1% are making is so vast that it is becoming more and more intolerable to ordinary Americans as they go forward. And this historically always leads to one thing, and that is riots in the streets and a replacement of the system that currently exists. And that is what's coming for the United States. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We'll talk a little bit about the historical precedents for this. We'll talk about just how you can kind of prepare so that you can kind of be aware of and ready for what happens next. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And these are the things you just won't hear out there on the mainstream media. All right, so we have wealth disparity massively different between the top 0.1%. Now, the system has been operating for enough time that some people have been able to figure out how to play the game and play it so well that they can then box everyone else out. You can't get wealth because they're grabbing all the wealth. You can't get into real estate because they're buying up all the houses, right? They have enough wealth to make it so that they're the only ones who can get into the game. And while a lot of people out there are talking about the top 10% or the top 1%, really when it comes down to it, it's the malicious 0.1% billionaires that are really doing the most damage to the system. They are playing it so well that they are the people that are playing the monopoly game and not letting anyone else play. They bought up all the tokens to play, and you're just sitting there watching them play. And that's kind of how a lot of Americans feel these days. And the United States isn't the only place. There's a lot of places around the world where you have this sense of depression, this sense of foreboding, this sense of there is, wealth. There is a way to get wealth, but it's not available for ordinary people. It belongs to certain people. Certain people have that right. Certain people have access to that, but we, the vast majority of people, don't have access to that. And when you look at the ownership of stocks, it's just absolutely insane how concentrated the ownership of the stock market, ownership of real estate is in the United States. The top 1% owns over 38% of the U.S. stock market. That's not a great number. That is a very disparate number. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I think most people kind of feel that way. And like I said, this leads to one place, and that is, let's just use JFK's own words. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. And I think that's really where we're headed, is the system is stacked so heavily in favor of certain people, and we look at it. The politicians are bought and paid for by these 0.1 percenters, the billionaires and the ultra millionaires, the $100+ million millionaires, right? These people control the politicians. If you think that your vote really does all that much, it kind of doesn't. The effect of your vote is far less than $100. If you were to choose between voting or donating $100 to your candidate of choice, the $100 does way more. It buys more votes. So you may not be voting, but giving them $100 will help them to sway 4 or 5 votes maybe. Which is more powerful, money or your civic responsibility? And that's really where you start to see people who actually understand how the system works, people who are observing the system, they start to realize that the system is so rigged that why play? Or, as some people are going to start seeing more and more, why play according to their rules? Why not set up a new system? Why not set up a new system where we take all of the people's stuff? Now, we just saw this happen in New York City. Mamdani just won, an avowed socialist. He wants to do all sorts of radical socialist stuff that he says will be free and will be awesome, and we don't have to worry about paying the bills, and it's going to be great. We're going to have government-run supermarkets. We're going to have government-run everything. We're going to have rent controls that are put in place that are much more extensive than what we have currently. And while you and I don't like that, we don't like this guy at all, right? We don't like his socialist insanity. And the fact that Gen Z has showed up in force to vote for this guy, for socialism, he's avowing a system, communism and socialism, that has never worked anywhere. It has been tried so many times, and yet it has always ended up in mass extermination of human beings and in a system that is a broken economic system. It's how it always works. And if you have so many people going for systems that just do not work, you have to come to the understanding that they know this system that is operating right now, and they hate it so much that they're willing to try something that absolutely will never work. It really speaks to the desperation there. Because let's just admit it. Let's go to the other side of the political spectrum, and we sent President Donald J. Trump to Washington. And some people are like, well, he's going to say mean things. And we're like, yeah, we know. We kind of want him to go and say some mean things. He's going to go and break things. I sure hope he does, because the system is broken. And Republicans, conservatives, libertarians who voted for President Trump, send him to Washington, D.C. not to fix the system. He's not supposed to go there and to make it work better. He's supposed to go to Washington, D.C. and break the system. He's supposed to replace the current system, which we all hate, and try to replace it with something that is less bad. And I think that we'd all agree that we want the system replaced, but then the question is what are we replacing it with? And that's when we all start having a conversation that we don't all agree on. But we all agree that we don't like the system as it is. And so you see this frustration on the left. We see this frustration on the right. And both sides, and basically everybody in between, doesn't like how it works right now. Now, there's a few people it's working for, and they're just happy as clams, okay? But those people are a very, very small minority. If you got a $200,000 job working for the post office in their corporate, in their main headquarters in Washington, D.C., or something like that, or working for some government agency, and you're making $300,000 a year for with benefits. And you're working a 9-to-5 job with, 35 vacation days a year, yeah, you're probably like, hey, this works great. I think this is just awesome. Let's just keep on doing this. Well, for you, it does seem to be working, okay? But for the rest of us, not so much, okay? And we have this anger building both on the right and on the left. We got the anger building in the middle. People are upset. And people on the right are ready to send somebody like Donald Trump and some of these other firebrands to Washington, D.C. And the people on the left are ready to start voting in avowed communists. I think it's safe to say that discontent in the United States has hit all-time highs. And that is a breeding ground for riots in the streets. A replacement of the U.S. government. Because when the people on the right and the left start agreeing on the fact that we need to replace the current system, even though we don't agree on which system to replace it with, this is what we see in a lot of countries, where the people get together, they rise up, they throw the bums out of office. They burn the presidential palace down to the ground. And then they, after the fact, after they've deposed the government, then they start having the conversation on what to do next. And let's just say it doesn't work out so well usually. The United States American Revolution is an absolute outlier. This basically has never really happened before, and it hasn't really happened since either. And Americans have grown up with the American Revolution, and there's a lot of people that talk a lot about the American Revolution. We need to do that again. Well, friends, that's really, really dangerous, because if you look at world history, you're going to see that that usually does not end up the way we ended up. The providence of God, the protection from on high is the only thing, and the generosity and the selflessness of George Washington are some of the only things that ever really made it so that we could possibly have a union that would work, and yet, at least at first, didn't take too many of our rights away. All right. Why are people upset? Well, young people are really upset because they're never going to own a home. BlackRock is buying up everybody's houses, and people can't afford homes. In addition to that, pitchforks are on sale at Dollar Tree. Just think about this. We don't really have a capitalistic system. You know, these folks are like, we want to do socialism, we want to do communism, we want to do something other than capitalism. Well, we haven't had capitalism in the United States for a very long time. The fact that the Federal Reserve replaced capitalism with a soft socialism a long time ago is undeniable. Since 1913, when the Federal Reserve stepped in, we had the income tax happening, the US dollar has lost 97%. Now, this is just using government inflation numbers, which are bogus and absolutely wrong. But let's just use those numbers for a second here. In a little over 100 years, we lost 97% of the value of the dollar. The government stole 97% of the money. The government stole 97% of the money. Yeah, and they gave it to who? They gave it to these political insiders, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, if you will, the Joe Bidens of the world, if you will. These political insiders that get massively rich from doing nothing but being in public office. It's absolutely ridiculous how it goes, but that's exactly how it goes. And if you disagree with me, just go look at some of the financial statements for Nancy Pelosi. Go look at the financial statements for Joe Biden. How did they get so rich? There's no explanation for it other than they found a way to siphon government money and sell political influence for lots and lots of cash for real estate. Better than the 97% figure, which is a little hard to grasp. Gold has gone up a lot since then, okay? Back then, gold was about $20 an ounce. $20 an ounce. Today, you can't buy gold for anything less than $4,000 an ounce. So gold has gone up 200 times. That's a lot, 200 times. And I think that we can all agree that, that's a pretty big rise. And the only reason why it went up so much is because the US dollar has imploded that much. Remember seeing how when McDonald's opened up, you know, they were looking at like 1-cent cheeseburgers, 1-cent hamburgers, 10-cent, you know, and now you can't get it for anything less than like, you know, those same cheeseburgers don't go for anything less than $3, $4, right? Tell me that it's not basically the same thing. A 20-cent cheeseburger has become $4. That's basically not too far off from what we're looking at with the rise of gold in 50 years. When you look at 100 years, it's way worse, right? We've just absolutely devastated the dollar, and that's just been a massive fleecing operation. So what happens when this happens? When you have all this fleecing happening, eventually the people just stand up and say, no more. We're done. And we're seeing that happen politically, but the question is peaceful revolution even possible? The people on the left are putting Mamdani in, not so much because they really think he's going to fix things. Maybe the morons think that he will. But really, I think what they're doing is they want to see if the system is even responsive anymore, right? If you're wondering if your steering wheel works anymore, you cut it a little harder just to see if it moves the car, right? You're not necessarily wanting to cut that hard or move that direction, but you're just testing to see if you even have control anymore. And the American people are doing that with President Trump. They've been doing that for years, where they're just like, this system doesn't seem to work anymore. Let's all vote this way just to see if we can put a reality TV show guy in, and maybe that will work. It's like the electrified paddles they put on somebody who needs to be resuscitated, right? Or they need to have their heart stabilized or whatever. It's not a good thing to do normally, but hey, when you're desperate, you're willing to try. What are you going to do? You're going to make it worse? I mean, it really can't get much worse than the situation right now. And politically, that's where Americans feel like they are. So, what happens when the left succeeds in taking out President Trump? They've tried numerous times. They've tried to politically prosecute him. They're trying to bully him into doing what they want him to do with this lockdown, the shutdown right now. What happens when they actually succeed? The political right will, and libertarians and such, will feel like the system doesn't work anymore. And if the system doesn't work, there's only one thing left to do, and that's hit the reset button. And I think a lot of people are more and more thinking about that reset button. So, how can you prepare for this? Well, friends, it's a tough one. Do you have young people that you know and love? Then realize that they're the ones who are going to bear the brunt of this. I know all these 40-something, 50-something-year-olds are like, we're going to go out there and we're going to do stuff. Friends, you're not all that useful. Sorry, but that's the truth. Armies around the world are not made up of 40 and 50-year-olds. They're made up of 18, 19, 20-year-olds. People that are going to do what they're told. People who are going to do it exactly the way they've been told how to do it. They're not going to think, they're just going to act. And that's what militaries are made up of. Now, I know there's thinking and it's complicated. I'm not trying to minimize what goes into infantry, but I'm saying that your officers, your NCOs need to be able to think through things, but the privates, you need lots and lots of privates. And you need them to do exactly what they're told. They need to not think too much. They need to think about the problem, but not think about whether the problem should exist or whether they should actually fix the problem. They should only be thinking about, they've been given this task, they need to figure out how to accomplish that task. And that's all they really need to do. And they need to accomplish that task in the way that they've been trained to do it. Not some new creative way. And wars are not fought by 40s and 50-year-olds unless things go really, really bad. It's going to be your children. They're the ones who are going to be suffering. They're the ones who are going to bear the brunt of this. Be thinking about that. Keep stockpiling stuff and stay ahead of this thing. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining with us. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments down below. If you want to check out another video, there's one right here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.